we're going to be doing 13.2, shading with values. You should by now have your color wheel finished and all laid out, as well as have your sheet filled out, all except for monochromatic colors. This should be blank, and we're going to do that today. Before we start this, our next section, I want you to get in your pocket of your notebook, and you should have a student vocabulary page for Unit 4, Value, Color, and Light. And here are your vocabulary: value, color, and light. Those are your focused vocabulary words. And here are some examples of each. So you should take a minute to open up the back of your sketchbook to your vocabulary section. Okay, you should have in your vocabulary section, this one is not completed properly, but you have all your vocabulary: shape, space, geometric, organic. Our last ones were form and texture, and so next you should be completing these next three. So after texture comes these next three here. And your vocabulary words, like I said, are listed here. Here is the definition of value, so you would write that in your definition area. And here's your accompanying vocabulary to go with value: depth, blend, as these things blend well; light, dark, as they go from light to dark; fade, they're fading, okay? And opaque, when something's opaque, it's very light. All the colors on this end are very light. That means you can kind of see through them. Color, that's the element that's produced when light is reflected off of an object and into our eye. Here are some examples of color. This is the primary colors that I put here. Your accompanying vocabulary is intensity. How bright a color is, that's the intensity. Dull, that's going to be less intense. Primary, which are these. Secondary, tertiary, we talked about that last time. Triadic, that's the triangle when it has the three colors with the triangle. Analogous, the ones right next to each other. Complementary, right across. Split complementary, when it comes across and then splits. Acrylic and watercolor, these are two types of paint that you can use to create color in art. And then light, what makes things able to be seen. And it determines the values within an object. See, there's lots of values, light to dark, in an object because of the way the light's hitting it. So some accompanying vocabulary: shadow, because they make a shadow based on the opposite side of the light. Glow, there's a glow on it. Illuminate, and brightness. Okay, so take a minute to write these vocabulary words down. You don't have to do all of this as an example. You can just pick one of these and do a value example. You can even do black and white if you want to. Just a couple of color examples and just an example of some light. And once you're finished with that, we can start on the lesson. Okay, so let's start our monochromatic. That means that we are adding white or black to one color. So you need to look at your color wheel and pick one color that you like. Any of these colors, just pick one. Okay, once you have your color picked, you're going to paint that color right here. We do have to use paint for this, so make sure you have paint. And paint a little bit over here with added black, and a little bit over here adding some white. So you should have your original color in the middle, your original color plus some black, and then your original color plus some white. Once you decided the color you're going to pick, you're going to need to take one of your harder watercolor sheets out of your sketchbook pocket, and we're going to use this to put our picture on. If you need to, you can use your sketchbook to sketch out a picture first that will go on here, but you do not have to do that. You can go ahead and lightly draw it on here first. Okay, I have sketched out an apple, so I'm going to use the color blue. I know that's not what color an apple is, but that's fine. I'm going to use the color blue because that's the color I like to use. And so I'm fixing to use the blue color and add whites and blacks to it to make different values to to go on this apple to give it some shape and shading. So if I'm going to make my light come this way, this is going to be the lightest part of my apple, and opposite of that right here would be the darkest part of my apple with a shadow down here. And I drew a line here because I'm going to paint the top part of the background a certain color and the bottom a different color. So let's go ahead and I'll do a little painting on this. Okay, you notice for my colors here, I have a little bit of black, a little bit more blue, my medium amount, and then I have a lot of white. That's because you just use a tiny bit of black and it goes a long way. It's going to make your color get dark really fast, so you don't need very much black. Your regular pigmented color, you're going to need a middle size amount because you're going to be mixing it with a white and it's going to make it go a lot farther. So you're going to need more white than your pigmented color. So I'm going to use this, and I can go ahead and start with my white, and I'm going to mix this in the middle together. So I have a color that's in between here. So I can just, if you're using a paper plate, you can just do this and mix them right here. And I have a separate pile for my lighter color. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start painting my apple. Now I can get some more color. Add to that while it's still wet, and then I can blend this in. I can get some more. I continue painting this, and I still have some light color on my brush. So I'm going to finish painting this apple. Okay, so here is part of my apple that is painted. And I have done the lighter side over here. You notice I painted in the direction of the surface of the apple. I didn't go straight up and down like it's flat. I painted it in a curved fashion. And then I also decided, since this is my light side, I'll do a darker background over here so it will help that stand out, so there's contrast. On the other side we have a lighter background so that it helps this darker side of the apple stand out. So now I'm going to paint the base down here so I can see what surface my apple is sitting on. Okay, so I've painted the surface my apple is sitting on, and I went side to side because that's the direction I want this to look elongated. My background I painted up and down because I want it to look tall. And I put some shadow here using just my blue. Now I haven't used any black yet, so now I'm going to go in and start mixing my blue and black to touch up on all my dark areas, which is going to be here, here, and probably over in this side. Okay, so here is the rest of my apple. I darkened it up here, and I made sure the darkness went out, that it went out both on my shadow and on my actual object. I added some darkness here and right here at the base of my stem. So here's one way to do a monochromatic painting. I'm going to do a more simple one on the back side. Okay, here is my second sketch. So this is one that's just basically shapes. So I'm going to use my monochromatic color scheme with blue to paint this one. Okay, here is the final painting for my monochromatic shapes. And if you notice, I kind of space the dark shapes, the dark colors out so that they're not touching. And I have my whitest one here, which is a good focal point. And then I have these two similar shades, these two similar shades. And I have a gray one here that's similar to this one. So don't have all of your colors, the different values close together. You want to kind of mix it up a little bit. Otherwise your painting is going to kind of blend together and you won't be able to tell what's what very well. So either you can do something like this, where it's a little more realistic, or you can do some shapes, or you can do several apples and just do it kind of like this, where each apple is a different color. You don't have to do your values from light to dark and things like that. So have fun with this, and we'll see you after Thanksgiving.